I think just this idea of like needing, just realizing that, well, I guess, yeah, the kind of being okay to be wrong or like later changing your mind or anything. I think that kind of influx state is not really kind of, we're told to sort of make a decision and
stick to
and
it,
sort of stand on our soapbox and scream about it on social media and whatever we may do, still allowing us to then 5 days later change our mind. But why not in that moment, rather than screaming from the whatever with our idea, be like, this is my idea, but I'm like interested and open to be proven wrong about it, or like, this is how I'm currently feeling. And I think a lot of it, right, comes down to language, which is what was so interesting about writing the book, how our language can genuinely deprogram these kind of fixed ideas where like, which lane are you in, decide. And I think too, with a lot of reading that I've done around sort of like other books that maybe state different kind of, sustainable type books, is that they're quite like, I really kind of shy away and don't like language that is about like, shaming and making people be like, if you're not doing this already, like, how do you call yourself an environmentalist or whatever? And showing the nuance, to a big part of the book is there's no right or wrong way. There's no good or bad thing. Like, that literally doesn't exist. And the nuance within every decision you make, all we can do is be more informed, have more information, know more, so that we can make our own better informed decisions that work for us. But like, someone else may have all the same information but choose to make a different decision based on their needs or realities.
Welcome to Soundfood, an open, intersectional dialogue on nourishment of all mediums, inviting the inquiry, what is sound, and how do we find and feel resonance today? Hello, community. Welcome to Soundfood. Happy Earth Month, Earth Day, Earth Moment, always. Today we have a very special, deeply grounding, nourishing, I feel very comforting episode of Soundfood to share with all of you. We are so grateful and honored to welcome back our dear friend Bonnie Wright to the podcast. As I record this, I am very gratefully gazing into the beautiful sunset. I have indigo blues and violets of the Pacific Ocean fading into peaches and ambers and soft nude tones, pastels, baby blues and gold. Feeling so grateful because our magical guest Bonnie is the reason why I'm even here right now back in California as I record this. So I actually came out several weeks ago to attend literally the most exquisite, multidimensional wedding that she created with her now husband, Andrew. And I swear I was so impacted by their love and all the radiant vibrations coming from it. I couldn't leave California. I just felt back in love with my homeland. No, I'm just kidding. I have extended my trip here and I'm just really enjoying being here, but I'm also just feeling like it makes so much sense because not only was Bonnie one of our very first podcast guests that we sat down with years ago back in California at the onset, it just feels so full circle and beautiful to get to reconnect with her now in this very exciting chapter of her life, recently married, and with the upcoming release of her book, Go Gently. So I'm so tickled by how everything has unfolded, and I playfully blame her for my California kidnapping, but really it's just been So deeply healing to be back here, back where it all started. And alongside this, I have to thank those of you who are returning listeners to the podcast. Thank you for your patience. I know that we have, and you've noticed probably, that we have seriously slowed things down over here between navigating through my own health stuff and the travel. I've really had to slow down, pause, and give myself permission to release these conversations in the way that feels most resonant with myself, which is, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. So thank you all. I know it's been a while since our last episode with Dr. Linda. Thank you for continuing to tune in and following along the Soundfood journey. I appreciate your presence, your listening so much. And I'm hoping that we get into an every other week cadence. Let's see how that feels. But thank you for your patience. I know a few of you have been writing, asking, when's the next episode coming out? And I appreciate your care and I appreciate your time and I appreciate your attention deeply. So thank you. Okay, back to today's wonderful and magical guest, Bonnie Wright. Bonnie is an actress, filmmaker, and advocate for climate justice and the protection of our environment. She began her career playing Ginny Weasley in the Harry Potter films and now uses her platform to amplify the importance of environmental health. Since 2017, she has been an ambassador for Greenpeace, focusing on single-use plastic pollution in our oceans and the connection to the fossil fuel and petrochemical industry. Bonnie was born in London and now lives by the Pacific Ocean in California. Her book, Go Gently: Actionable Steps to Nurture Yourself and the Planet, is out in a few days on April 19th and is a guide to creating positive change that we can all use to treat our home and ourselves gently and to do our part to help protect our beautiful planet Earth. It's truly a multidimensional book. Bonnie has poured so much love, so much intention, so much awareness into this book. She shares about her creative process in writing this book, the highs, the lows, all of it. And in her words, she says, I think a lot of us have preconceived notions about what a climate activist should look or act like. They should know all the statistics, make grand speeches, commit every moment of their life to the cause. But what the climate really needs right now is for each of us to show up just as we are. Just to show up. I love how she puts that. I love how she has really evolved her approach to living with more harmony and reverence for our Mother Earth and all the incredible awakening tips that she has shared with us in this book and in today's conversation. Definitely get a pen and paper out or take down notes in your phone. You are going to learn so much. There's still a little time to order the pre-sale of the book, so check out Bonnie's site, gogently.earth. There's also tons of resources, articles written by Bonnie and other like-minded, brilliant minds in the space on her website. So once more, that's gogently.earth. Find everything linked in the show notes below. You are going to learn so much. And lastly, I am so delighted and excited to announce one of our new nourishment partners this spring. I am so happy because it feels so perfectly aligned with today's conversation and focus to let you all know that we are now partnering with Material Kitchen. Material is an incredible line of beautiful kitchenware that is designed for the very discerning home cook. It is founded by our Californian Eunice and Dave, who really wanted to weave their love of food through their Korean and Vietnamese traditions into their own homes and to really create meals using the best tools possible. I love everything that they have. I was very lucky. They sent me some of their products when they launched way back when, and I've hosted many dinner parties using their pots, their pans, all of their tools, their knives. Particularly of note and connected with today's conversation, they have these awesome reboards, which are basically, and it's really rad now because when they first launched, I actually got to try like the prototypes, but now they have all the finished boards that they kind of come in like a rainbow of different colors. So there's a sand, there's a coral color, there's a really nice nude toned color, there's blues, and basically they're cutting boards. They're called the Reboard, that are made entirely of repurposed kitchen plastic scraps and renewable sugar cane. They're amazing. They're really easy to clean, and the colors are just so on point. Completely 100% upcycled and renewable. So pop onto Bonnie's site, pick up her book, and then pop on to the Material Kitchen site to pick up these reboards. And then another product that I just love that they have is it's called the Iconics set. It's basically everything that you need apart from the reboard for your kitchen to really set yourself up for culinary success. There's different colors. I personally love the lighter wood base with the cool neutral handle for all the tools. And it's a whole setup. So there's an 8-inch knife, a serrated 6-inch knife, a 4-inch knife, or I think it's called the almost 4-inch knife. There's tongs, there's a wooden spoon, amazing metal spoon, slotted spatula, air whisk, slotted spoon, and then of course the base, which comes in the walnut or the lighter maple wood. It's amazing. This is really, really high quality Japanese high carbon and stainless steel. It's a matte and stain resistant composite handle finish. Total setup, amazing. Lots of other things. Their pots and their pans are my favorite to use, all stainless steel. Honestly, everything on their site is just the best. So go to materialkitchen.com and use the code CITRINE, CITRINE, for 20% off everything from their site. You will love it. Honestly, I swear, something with the materials that they're using, pun intended, the Material Kitchen materials are also really, really easy to clean. I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just that they look better, but they're honestly more fun and easier to clean as well. So use the code CITRINE for everything on materialkitchen.com and pick up your copy of Go Gently and get started changing the world one little recipe at a time. Okay, and with that, I just wanted to pull open this page from Bonnie's book, Go Gently, because I really feel that it sets the context for how we can begin to relate to these small steps to help heal our planet Earth. So, and Bonnie just puts it so perfectly. She writes, before we dive into these at-home practices that support a healthy planet for all creatures, it is essential that we take a look at the systems that govern our planet. This includes those designed by humans and those that pre-exist within Earth's blueprint. We will explore how these systems interact, which of them are broken, which are thriving, and which we need to support so that we can mitigate climate breakdown. The ice caps are not going to melt. They already are. Sea levels are not going to rise. They already are. This is why we need to take a crisis approach to the climate. Fossil fuel companies are not going to put the planet before profit. We, as compassionate earthlings, need to do that. The time to join this movement and educate ourselves on how best to take action is now. So thank you, Bonnie, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Let's step into this empowering, activating, and simultaneously deeply nourishing conversation with Bonnie.
Hello, dearest Bonnie. Welcome back to Soundfood.
Hello, it's lovely to be back here in this space with you.
We're so excited and honored because not only were you one of our very first Soundfood guests way back when, lifetimes ago, we know that you're so busy and you have so many beautiful, exciting things happening in your life right now. So thank you for taking time to sit down with us.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's an exciting time, lots of things happening, and I'm excited to share with your listeners.
So, first things first. Well, actually, how are you doing today? How are you? And kind of paint your inner landscape for us today a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Well, we had like amazing thunder and rainstorms last night. So feeling like the rain refreshed the streets and gardens around, and the house is full of all the animals hiding from the rain. I have one right at my feet, one of the cats.
Oh.
And so it's been nice. Yeah, the rain felt like refreshing. And yeah, just kind of gearing up for the process of having my book out, all new things. So everything feels quite new, but also kind of calm because all the work has been done. Like I've put a lot of work into this book. So it feels good that it's kind of coming to its opening moment.
So you have this incredible book, Go Gently, Actionable Steps to Nurture Yourself and the Planet, coming out April 19th?
Yes, on April 19th, which is so soon. So yeah, it's going to be coming out in the US and Canada, and also in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand on the same day. And also as an audiobook too, which was a joy to record. So yeah, it's coming out. It's a hardcover book and lots of images, lots of writing and illustrations, and it's amazing. Yeah, I just got a couple of days ago the first physical copy. So
wow. How did that feel to hold it in your hands?
I honestly was pretty terrified to open the box. I think it sat there for like 20 minutes before I like brought myself to open it. But it felt amazing. I felt like so much these days, and particularly the work I've been used to in my life, has been very kind of digital, very much viewed as this kind of tangible object. You watch something, whether that's a film I've made or been in, or like obviously the way we communicate through social media and like online platforms, but to physically actually hold this book in my hand was quite an out-of-body experience. And, that's why I really wanted to write a book and to put all this information and interest and kind of things of mine down into a book as a practice for myself to kind of really sit down and go inwards. And also just as a kind of resistance maybe to short form, kind of quick throwaway sort of information that we're becoming very accustomed to, and to refocus like our attention. And I feel for me, a book does that for me. So that's why I wanted to write a book.
Oh, absolutely. And when you think about the physicality of a book and the printed book and the time and energy that goes into it, these books outlast us by lifetimes.
Yeah.
I have a collection of antique vintage books from my great grandmother and grandfather. So yeah, it's exciting to think how these books will, the lifetime of all these Go Gently books in the future.
Yeah. I think too as well, just how the physical object having to make its way to someone, obviously we can just post something now and however many people can just look at it right away now. But like the physical kind of journey that the book will take to each person. And I'm sure like on that day too of April 19th, the day it comes out, that kind of, oh gosh, like people are opening their packages now or going to the bookstore and kind of finding them and everything. There's kind of this it feels more like an event, because it's this kind of moment where I feel like people are reading it or can read it on the same day. And then also that balance of, that kind of fear in that too. It's kind of interesting to lean into for me. Obviously, it's a very vulnerable process, putting yourself down into a book, any creative practice is. And so I'm excited for that kind of vulnerability. And also I'm so excited to hear people's feedback of the book and how that can create community, that conversation of people trying. The book is very practical and has very much things you can kind of follow and do yourself. So I'm looking forward to the conversations that will create as people give feedback.
So am I, and I can't wait till I have my physical copy. When is that coming? Well, okay, so I have so many questions about the process of the book, and we'll be sure to link all the resources in the show notes for everyone who's following along so you can get your book in all the places Bonnie recommends. But first things first, stepping away from business, we have to address the fact that you are now a radiantly married woman, Bonnie.
Yes, I am. At this moment. I have been married for 10 days or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it feels good.
I mean, I'm still high off of that exquisite, literally the most magical, beautiful wedding / event I've ever attended, Bonnie. You and Andrew. I mean, it only makes sense because I feel like you guys are both such radiant and beautiful, incredibly kind and compassionate beings. And, I wouldn't expect less, but from the food to the flowers to just everything. How are you feeling? It was so much. How was the wedding? What are your takeaways from it? And what was that gorgeous dress you were wearing? All the girly questions come now. Sorry.
Yeah, I love it. So last week, I honestly was on this absolute high and come down all at once. I was resisting time moving. I was no, trying to turn back time as much as I could. I feel a bit better now that it's okay, I have to accept that it's an amazing, beautiful memory that still feels raw and there. So it was kind of interesting, just being surrounded by everyone you love at once. I can't remember when my last ever experience was to combine worlds like that through family and friends from different spheres, different places. It just felt just the most amazing, magical mix of being able to it just felt like I was the whole day just suspended kind of time and place and space. It felt not real. But then I also felt beautifully present to the whole day, which I was always quite fearful of not feeling present to it, just in hearing other people's experience of their wedding day. So I felt beautifully present, and that was really because everyone else was being very present. And yeah, I felt like the whole day reflected our personalities a lot. It was on our friend's farm, the Ecology Center, and our friend Georgia, who kind of was how we got introduced, and Andrew and I met, officiated the wedding. So it just felt like this beautiful, just ceremony, but almost just a conversation between Andrew and I and Georgia. And we brought in as many friends as possible. Obviously, the place of the farm being our friends, Georgia officiating, my friend Hope, who did the flowers, and my friend who did the cake, to my friend Amani Ahmad, who cooked a beautiful dinner that was all from produce grown right there on the farm. So, we tried to make it really reflect the things that we love. And then, girly questions. My dress was a 1930s vintage dress. So, tried to be as kind of create as least waste as we could throughout the whole event, and obviously try not buy that many new things. We built some stuff ourselves for it. So it was just a beautiful collaboration, really, between not only obviously the people who physically were part of making it happen, but also just everyone being there. I think you realize in those days, this isn't this is our day as a shared collective, because you know, everyone else kind of chatting to everyone afterwards, everyone's just like kind of on a similar come down as I am, you know, like wanting to be back in that bubble.
I was telling you, I was like, you guys need to get remarried in a year, 5 years, 10 years, like every year, actually every month. I'd be okay with it. No, I mean, I took so much time, and just the level of awareness I feel like you brought to it. I didn't even realize that gorgeous food was all grown on site at the Ecology Center. I mean, no wonder it was literally the most vibrational, vibrant spread, and everything was plant-based, which I really appreciated. And even the wine, you had Barbara's. I was naughty. I'm trying to be sober, and I had to have a little bit of biodynamic wine, which is so special.
Yeah.
Well done.
Cooper Mountain Vineyard, lovely wine. But yeah, it was just a very special day that obviously came from good planning and ideas, you know, and also just the magic of people making it so good. But it was great. I'm hoping to get like our photographer set sharing up the pictures soon, which are all shot on like half film, half digital. So I hope waiting for that moment so I can just relive everything again by flicking through the pictures, because that's what I've been doing, procrastinating, just flicking through my phone when I should be doing other things, just reliving everything.
And now you're full force into this book release, which...
Yeah, it's no break. It was straight back into it, which was, always kind of how it kind of came to be. And people laugh because they're like, that's so you to have a wedding and then exactly a month later to the day your book comes out. So yeah, I like having everything at once, and I don't know.
So then we have one more fun kind of playful question, and then I absolutely want to get into a deeper dive in the book, but we love to ask our guests their astrology, if you don't mind sharing. So I know you're an Aquarius. It's so crazy, Bonnie, because I've told you this before, that my due date was your birthday, right?
Yeah.
I'm always so tickled by that, because I feel like there's some divine connection there. But so I know you're Aquarius sun, and what's your moon and rising, if we can ask?
Yeah, my moon is Pisces and my rising is Sagittarius. That
makes sense. So much sense. And you are a fellow projector in human design. Where are you defined? Like what numbers?
I don't know. I've never I need to do like a deeper dive into it, honestly. But I feel like from the readings I have done, and I do wish I knew more about this, and you can teach me more, but I find it, very interesting, because I feel like how we make sense of the world or how we approach it kind of makes sense to me. You know, I'm not someone who... Someone once described me a bit like a cat. Like I kind of like encircle, like look from afar, play a bit hard to get. But like once my claws are in, they're in. Once I decide that I'm into the project or into the person, like I'm there and I'm loyal. But it takes me a little encircling before I approach.
That was one thing that killed me in the best sense during the vows, was when Andrew mentioned, I think he says, director and projector. I was like, oh, that was the icing on the cake on the whole thing. And then, you know, his acknowledgement of your need to rest, that he would support you in resting. I was like, oh, what a love. That was so sweet. Okay, so with all of that in mind, let's definitely talk. One more fun wedding question. Okay, we have to know, what's Andrew's astrology, and do we know his human design? I just have to ask.
I know. So his sun is Scorpio, and then he has another Scorpio. I forget if it's his moon or his rising. I think it might be his moon is also Scorpio.
I think it's his moon, because his moon with your moon is really good. The Pisces moon with the Scorpio moon.
I forgot what his rising is. And then he's as like a human design, he's the one that's the combination. Is it manifesting generator or something?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So he helps you get stuff done, like his entire wedding.
Just anything. I'm like, that's a really good idea. Can you like finish it and follow it through, you know?
So beautiful. Andrew, we love you so much.
We do.
Okay, so Go Gently.
Yes.
What was your inspiration behind this book, creating it?
Yeah, well, I think in like just harking back to the projector kind of thing is also like interesting to think about like how the book came to me, because I think most of my ideas are accumulation of it. And while they kind of brew and bubble and end up with like a kind of direction, there's always this kind of like general push that like all areas of my life are simultaneously like moving in a direction, but it doesn't necessarily always to me have like a clear end goal. Like if you'd have told me 3 years ago I have a book coming out, I would never have believed you. You know what I mean? So I love that things kind of find their way to me through accumulation of like curiosities, like interests, and like what pulls my like intelligence and mind and everything. So I like that. For me, I love to hear how like ideas came about for different people. So the book was really, while there was a moment where it kind of came more form to me, which was in sort of kind of 2019 into 2020, over that kind of holiday period is when it kind of came more form to me in terms of its title and how each chapter would be also go something. So the book is Go Gently, but other chapters in the book, for instance, are Go Make, Go Learn, Go Enjoy, Go Keep. You know, they have these kind of go in front of them. So that really came to me in that moment. And, you know, as I said a little bit before, I was really intrigued by the process of writing a book and what that would do for not only the medium of what I was sharing, but also for my own internal like practice as a human being, and how that could really focus my energy and make me go a bit deeper into these topics I knew I was really interested in, but knew I could like have more reference points to them. So the idea of the book, essentially, you know, I'd been taking different actions around the climate crisis through working with Greenpeace and other organizations, founding my own kind of group. And, you know, all these actions I was taking were really focused on sort of like campaigning for, you know, reforming policy around kind of single-use plastic production, to kind of taking actions at climate rallies and marches and petitions, and taking things to corporations like Coca-Cola. So there are all these quite like front-facing, more public actions. So, and while I love those and I felt so like just, you know, electric in those environments around other people, you know, we come home to our home environment and it's very hard to keep that energy up when you're suddenly on your own. You're not around kind of groups and everything.
Right.
And B, I was looking at different practices I was doing in my home, and I was like, these don't really reflect as much as I'd like to the subjects I'm campaigning for. So for instance, at the time in the beginning of my work in the environment, it was very much focusing on ocean health and plastic pollution kind of problem. And I was looking at my own day-to-day life and noticing, oh gosh, there's so much plastic in my life. How do I, in my own small way, begin to shift away from that and be less reliant on this material as the way I buy and everything? So I kind of just intimately, quietly was just beginning to learn a lot more about shifts I could make in my home to lower my use of kind of, you know, packaging essentially. And, you know, the minute I opened that kind of door and entry point, it then went into all different areas of my home, whether that was then being interested in food waste and composting, whether it was about, you know, looking at how could I keep and store things that would last longer, or how could I mend things so that I didn't have to kind of buy something new. Or so I was just beginning to do all these things at home through my own kind of curiosity in being part of the change I wanted to see, and just taking matters into my hands that felt like, again, like a book. It felt tangible and real, whereas often these sort of more bigger, large issues that take time, like changing policy, this could, in its own small way, to me, I could physically see change happen in front of my eyes. So I then began to see, actually, maybe there's something in here that could be a book, because I'd been kind of approached by a couple of different people's ideas for books, and they didn't really feel right, their kind of idea for the book. They very much wanted to angle it from like the more public activist kind of perspective. And for me, I don't really see myself as an activist. I see myself as an advocate for these issues. But I think, to me, an activist is someone who is, on the daily putting themselves on the front lines of an issue. But I am just there to advocate and amplify through the platform I have, or through the time I'm interested to give. So I didn't want to write a story that was about activism. I wasn't the right author for that story. But I was interested in this new idea that kind of came to me on my own. So it was interesting that it took someone else's maybe concepts to put the idea of a book in my head, but it wasn't till a year or 2 years later did the concept come to me through my own kind of ideas. So I thought...
Yeah, and it's because the projector's design is to wait for the invitation. So the invitation to write another book ultimately guided your own process to write this book, which I love, and I can recognize that.
Yeah, knowing in that moment, knowing to myself, like, that moment to say no, like, while flattering to be asked, of course, to write a book, I knew that I wasn't the right kind of author. And so when suddenly the idea kind of came formed to me, and it was about these practices I was doing, well, at first it came, actually, I wanted to write just like a small little like zine magazine type thing that was all about kind of like stuff I've been implementing just in the kitchen, because that was really the first space I looked at, because I really do think the best way to change things in your home that you can actually sustain over time is by taking an issue you care about and intersecting it with an area in the home that you find joy in. So for me, I love to cook, but I cared about, plastic pollution. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start in my kitchen, because if I start in my entire home, I'm going to like run for the hills and be terrified to finish. So that was kind of actually the first idea for the book, was just like a little, almost like mini recipe book about how the joy of food can help to connect to the issue. So that just became now one chapter of the book. And instead, it became a whole broader sort of look. So yeah, I mean, to describe, so people even know what exactly to expect in the book, is essentially this kind of hybrid of a kind of cookbook met a guidebook met kind of a self-reflective kind of kind of self-development sort of book, I guess, because it not only looks at things you can do in the home, but also like how can you take these things outside the home into your community, your workplace, your family, all those things. Because I stress at the end and the conclusion of the book that, our individual action can only be the beginning. It can't be the end, because if we all just individually got on with ourselves, that would kind of isolate ourselves from the more systemic issues and, the more bigger reality of kind of the justice, kind of intersection of climate justice around this issue too, just in terms of like, I recognize the time and privilege I've had to implement these changes. But if we don't also implement them on a policy scale, then how can people who don't have access make these better choices until they're made to be affordable or made to be accessible?
Yes. And I feel like that's something that you really committed to in the book, and that I've certainly learned from you, is the accessibility. And I just love how you soften it with the piece of go gently, just being your friend, but someone who really looks up to you. And I think you've really illumined and gently educated me on my own waste habits and areas that I can improve on. For instance, I still remember that one waste watch where you and Georgia were holding a waist watch session with, I apologize, I forget who it was with.
Was it on like soil health, or was it on what flushes down the toilet?
Yes. It was that one. It was about our sewage systems. And it was something as simple as, because I wear contact lens, think twice before flushing your plastic contact lens into the toilet, which I had been doing for, I'm embarrassed to admit, for years. And it was such an moment of awakening. And every day now, Bonnie, I think of you, and I think of that moment when I dispose of my contact lens, albeit I'm trying to wear glasses a lot more, like at least 2/3 of the time. But I get something about wearing glasses when I'm having to move around or shooting photos or anything. It makes me feel claustrophobic. But I sparingly wear contact lens now, and I always make sure that I dispose of them the right way. And so it's like, that small decision has changed my life. So I thank you for that. On that note, what is happening with Waste Watch right now? Because I feel like, in a way, this book is also partially a response to the fact that we went through a pandemic and we were unable to meet in person. So you created these really digestible ways to practice more waste mindfulness in our everyday. That being said, what is happening with Waste Watch right now, and do you have any plans for it?
Yeah, so my friend Georgia and I started a group, Waste Watch, back in, honestly, I think it was 2018 or 19. And it was purely designed because we were like, we're bored of trying to take action on our own at home, and we want to sort of learn in a more like collective environment. So we sort of curated these talks and brought people together and kind of created these dialogues so that we could share information like that to be learned, like you did with the contact lenses. But then the pandemic happened. Georgia then went to grad school. So we've physically not been close to each other, and neither of us in our own capacity could sort of really transition it to online. We didn't really have that kind of that kind of time, or I guess interest, because we really wanted it to be an in-person event. But obviously it, was definitely too inferred my book and inspired the book. And as you say, we've all spent a lot of time on our own at home. I think it's a big reminder for those who are very grateful to have physical community that are like-minded. It also makes you realize that so many people, whether sort of the accessibility physically to people, whether that's also just a disparity of beliefs maybe with those around them, or just kind of, anxiety around just socializing can obviously be the case for a lot of people. So I think it's been a good teaching, I think, for everyone to not have that accessibility to those who have, who, a reminder that this was people's normal, quote unquote, anyway, this kind of need to only communicate through kind of online spaces. But I also think it's been an incredible time for community, even if it doesn't need to be like your neighbor, but just, how you can lean on others and like get ideas from others, as people had like, whether that was like sharing recipes or books or different things in the first kind of months of the pandemic, just that kind of skill sharing or resource sharing felt really alive. And I feel like it just inspired my book, or made me feel good about writing my book even more. Just that kind of feeling that we are returning to skill sharing, and how that can enable you to be more resilient in times as a pandemic and, a crisis of climate, which is like happening. Maybe not yet to us directly, but it is to many communities already. So I think the book essentially, is about skill sharing really, and how you can often look to the past for a lot of these practices, or to other cultures that are already practicing these types of things to be more resourceful and kind of sustainable, because it's either just their nature or it's just their reality. We've obviously got more than we need, and that sometimes can create more problems. So it's just been a really interesting look. And I think for me, when I think of just like my culture or my history in my family lineage, like it's not that long ago since my grandparents really were practicing a lot of these things. So it's not that lost, you know. So I think it's been interesting to really see that if we work a little harder to focus and listen to, like, you know, elders or even youth who often can be quite like tapped into this kind of information. I feel like, you know, I've learned everything from other people.
I love how it started, you know, with the foundation of In Your Kitchen, but now it's this incredible multifaceted book that's so beautiful. And you also have this incredible website, which you have launched alongside it. It's an amazing educational platform with articles by yourself, instructional videos. You've got your YouTube channel. I mean, Bonnie, you really... You're really sharing the beauty and the wisdom on all levels. So, I mean, just congratulations again, and thank you. Kind of zooming back into the book, it doesn't necessarily have to be a recipe, but is there one sort of go gently hack that you feel inspired to share with our listeners? Maybe like one small thing that people can do on the daily to live more harmoniously with the planet?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to choose one thing. And I think that's what I really try and sort of stress in the book, that we all are going to have different intersections of interests. And I think that's what's so important when you look at, like, even the sort of like idea of how aid was once given. You know, aid was just delivered and they hoped that the community they were giving aid to wanted that thing. But, you know, often we don't really know what each person and each community needs. And I think that's really important when you look, and I hope people gain from the book that, like, it's totally fine if there's a whole section that just doesn't speak to you, because it shouldn't speak, you know, the whole thing shouldn't speak to you. And for someone might hate cooking, you know, I love the kitchen and I like food, but someone else might really not like that. But instead they love makeup and beauty, or they love like technology and data. Like, it could be different things. So I find it hard sometimes to give like one thing, because I just think we're all uniquely so different, and like our capacity for things can be different based on our life, our identity, socioeconomic situation, whatever that may be. So it's hard to say one thing, but I guess, you know, there's a practice in the book that's in the second chapter that I think that's called Go See. And it's basically this practice where you walk around the home and in different areas of the home, and you do what I call in the book an inventory table. So you basically take 5 items. So say you're in a bedroom, you could take, you know, the glass by your bed, you could take a piece of furniture and 3 items of clothing. And you basically go through this inventory table that asks you questions about kind of just really thinking about the environmental impact of that product, like what it's made from, where it was from, how you're caring for it, and the afterlife potentially of that product. So just that practice of an inventory table and just taking just a couple of things in each room, you begin to look at the story behind every product. It didn't just arrive in your hands. Like, many materials could have been farmed and extracted. Many lives could have touched it in their kind of workplace. So that's kind of an interesting first sort of exercise that you do in the beginning of the book, that I think immediately just, like, I hope, just expands kind of ideas and understanding and responsibility, I think, to what we have. Like, it hopefully cultivates more of a, like, I have this now in my possession. How do I best tend and care for that, so that everything that was extracted or farmed or lives that went into it were worthwhile? So that, I hope, is a bit more of a kind of open one thing to suggest.
Yeah, I love how you described it as like, what's the story behind the product? You know, that just opens up a whole universe into all the different layers that go into these everyday items that we, you know, most of us, I feel, overlook really all the energy that goes into them. So
yeah, definitely.
Thank you for bringing that up. And kind of speaking to the process of writing the book, I'm curious, Bonnie, for you, when you were organizing, writing, preparing, maybe you were completing a chapter, how did you know? This is kind of touching upon the notion of resonance, which we spoke about a little bit in our first episode, and I'd love to hear how it's evolved over the years. But essentially, how do you know when you're working creatively or in any capacity when you're on the right path, making the right move, and also perhaps with the book? Like, how did you know that a chapter was complete, or what guided you internally through that creative process? Because I mean, a book is huge, right?
Yeah, it's definitely an undertaking, and I don't think I ever really kind of thought how much. I mean, I did, but I mean, I think one truth is like it's never really done. You know what I mean? Whilst you've got to be done for it to be printed on the paper, it's never done. You know, the idea is always going to evolve, and you have to be okay with knowing that in a month, 5 years' time, I'm going to reread a chapter and think something entirely different. But like, you know, it would be a shame not to write at all if you were so scared of getting something wrong in the future, because then it was like, what can we learn otherwise? So I think it's just first kind of being open and vulnerable to being wrong or changing our mind. Like, I think that's just inevitable, especially in a topic that is so just alive and happening and evolving. You know, I'm not reflecting on something from the past. You know, it's in both past, present, and future, this issue. So first it's that, I think, and continual daily reminder as I was writing that, you know, of that as I got stuck on things and was like, it's okay to be, you know, wrong, or even to be wrong. Like, I learned so much through the process of writing the book. Like, I feel like I was a totally different person at the other end of it in terms of my kind of attitude for good. Like, I felt like I became literally more gentle as I wrote the book upon myself and on the kind of topic too, and just the depths of nuance, which I think a writer develops, and also especially develops when you're actually suggesting things to people and realizing how nuanced each reader is going to be, and how do you hold space for all of those people. That was like the most kind of, you know, intention behind it. But I think when I was actually writing it, like the physical practice of writing was very, well, you know, when I signed the publishing deal, I agreed, because I was suggested to, that I'd hand in the first draft in 6 months, which is actually wild. I don't know how
Insane.
I thought that was possible.
I remember when you told me that, I think you're like, oh, you know, it was, you know, what else am I going to do during this time? And
yeah,
I was like, you're insane, Bonnie.
And then, you know, like not only just that first draft, but then the amount of work that then went in from that first draft to what is now written on the page is like a whole nother book again. So, I mean, I've always been very used to rewriting story and letting go of story. You know, in filmmaking, you write the story 3 times: when you write the script, when you make the film, and when you edit it. And you have to be ready to rewrite the story 3 times. So I feel like I've always been used to that kind of practice of like letting go of something, even if at the beginning I thought like the whole thing is about this one sentence, but then maybe letting go of that sentence, realizing, oh, I kind of said it better, you know, elsewhere. So it's kind of a mixture of like, in the actual writing process, there were some days where I just really hit walls and I had to just be like, okay, you just need to step back and just go like, watch a film or read a book, or like just absorb some sort of creativity and not try to be creating the creativity. And then there were other days that I hit a wall and I didn't have time to do that because I had a deadline. So it was like a very interesting practice in getting over myself and pushing through discomfort. There was like a lot of discomfort, but like,
and what about when you got it right? Like when everything fell into place, like when you had a really great day writing, or things came together, like how did that feel in your body and your mind and your whole being?
Yeah, it feels interesting because it feels like, I think because the act of writing is quite solitary, you know, and like sometimes in other practices and things I've done, it's very collaborative, like filmmaking. So you're kind of like all feeling that buzz together. So there were definite moments where I kind of was just like having a little party for one at my desk, like, woohoo! I was like, oh my God, I have gone, like, I'm going feral. Definitely moments where I like literally started to look like, I don't even know, a bushy-tailed, sort of strange, four-eyed person. So there were moments that, yeah, like, but I kind of loved that too, that these moments were just like not really witnessed by anyone. There's nothing glorious about them. They're just like quiet and sort of goofy and geeky. But I think, yeah, I don't know, like I think sometimes it's hard when you're so in it to really step back and be like, oh yeah, that looks good, or see clarity, or like an ability to like, I don't know, feel proud of yourself or whatever, you know, because it's just this kind of, and what was quite hard is there was, you know, you have the writing element, and then we had like all the photo shoot and photos that went into it, and then all the design process. So it was like, it was never really finished, and like, because it almost could, until it was literally printed on the page, be changed.
Right.
So it was this kind of strange feeling. You know, there was no, I mean, there is now a literal finite point because I have the book in my hand, but like it was quite a strange, there was a lot of stamina I feel like I needed throughout the process, because it was never like sprinting to the finish line and I ran the race. It was like, okay, we're going again. Got to keep, you know, keep running, keep going. It was this kind of like cross country sort of
long
race. It was long. There was a lot of like sustained energy, and like where in that moment, obviously, do you lean into the tools that I had or were even outlining in the book? It was kind of interesting.
Ooh, that's kind of touching upon a question that I had for you, which is, you know, of course, the content itself is deeply nourishing, but how did you specifically nourish yourself throughout this process with either food or self-care, or I know you took yourself up to the woods for a bit.
Oh yeah, I did. At the beginning, to like really start, I went up to Northern California, which was kind of like, yeah, an interesting, in that moment, I think was more like terrified, like, oh my gosh, a blank page in an empty woods. It was like an interesting, and I in that moment as well, like a tool was really like, you know what, I just need to like read and sit here and think and not immediately address my laptop of writing. So it was kind of an interesting, you know, like coming to terms with the fact that this 2 weeks away was not going to maybe produce anything, and how that also like looked at my own kind of sort of ideas of productivity, and like how that had to change, because I don't know, I guess we're so programmed to like physically see progress and like need some tangible pages today. So it was like this interesting practice of like deprogramming what like that meant, and a lot of the things in the book are about that, like deprogramming this idea of like relying on systems, or relying on buying new things, or relying on kind of needing to see change like quickly, and not like being in this for like deep time. And so that being away, for instance, was just a great practice of like reminding myself that like it didn't need to be like immediately you know, have pages. But I think in terms of nourishment, I mean, change from, you know, 5 days of eating pasta and bread and not having much energy, and then other days of being like, maybe I should go out and buy some food and cook. So really ebbed and flowed, really. I mean, some days you're like, oh yeah, I haven't like stood up today or whatever. I've just been at my desk. So it kind of ebbed and flowed. I think it's important to admit that sometimes even with all the nourishment at your fingertips and tools, doesn't mean to say you're a perfect human being and you lean on them perfectly all the time.
I love that. Yeah.
And I think there were moments too where, like, you know, I was so excited that I was also gaining like nourishment from the writing process, where I think other times in my life I've seen more like things of consumption as a way of nourishment, but like the creativity was nourishing me. So there were times where like it like was less important, the kind of outward nourishment. But it was also strange, obviously, because we were in a pandemic. So like a bit like I'd been quite used to just, I think, from being someone who's grown up in a city, I don't really live like week to week. I live like day to day. But because we were like going to the grocery store less, I was like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm not going to go back for 2 weeks. So it was this like very like different mindset that I was kind of in. And I was actually physically like practicing and testing out like things in my book as well. So it was kind of a weird like experimental time that had to be like quite vigilant with my time, but also quite like creative and open. So I think my nourishment like ebbed and flowed within that. And I think, I mean, I was very thankful and grateful that I had beautiful outdoor space to be in and walk my dog and go to the ocean and, you know, just fill up on just like simple. I walked a lot during the process of like my book, you know, I went on multiple like walks a day when I had to just like shift some energy. So yeah, it was nice to kind of tap into like slower practices of movement and nourishment rather than kind of like more like high intensity, fast kind of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting. I remember too, was when you were in the process of writing the book. And I think I guess it was in 2020, right? And I remember we were both in the pandemic and you were the first person that I saw after being in quarantine. We did like a very awkward garden work day where I don't think we even hugged. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that for sure.
And it was such a like sweet moment too of, I mean, I think I'm not sure how great we did with the garden or what we were doing, but you managed to pull it off later. But I was just thinking about that too, the transition from the day-to-day to, you know, planning a week or 2 weeks in advance and, you know, just that time period of newness and fragility, literally, because we're all kind of in survival mode. And then also just kind of reframing our relationship to nourishment, to food, to input, to resources. Like, I just feel like the universe couldn't have timed it better for you to work on a project like this too, because it just really forced you to slow down and focus on the consideration of everything and the consideration of what is nourishing. Like, for instance, in that moment, like just seeing you was so nourishing for me. I was like, oh my God, a human being, you know?
Yeah, I think just, yeah, like how alive and close we felt to like what we really truly need. Like,
yeah.
So, and I think, yeah, obviously, as we kind of, you know, sort of break down these systems that are really not serving anyone, like, you know, consumerism, capitalism, like all these different things, you know, as we need to, as we address like the climate crisis and climate justice, it's an interesting, as you say, like it couldn't have been more interesting and expanding a backdrop, the context of a pandemic as we were all individually going through that, you know, kind of reset moment. It's just, yeah, it was just all like, I think now in hindsight, when I just even think back to like when you ask questions of like what those moments felt like writing, and I just think, whoa, like that was so intense to write a book during that time.
Yeah, Bonnie, and making your deadlines and being a projector and taking the time to decondition. It's true. Was there one sort of limiting, like societally conditioned belief that was particularly hard for you to clear during the writer's process? I know you mentioned like productivity in general, but was there one thing that was just like, Damn, that one was hard.
I think just this idea of like needing, just realizing that, well, I guess, yeah, the kind of being okay to be wrong or like later changing your mind or anything. I think that kind of influx state is not really kind of, we're told to sort of make a decision and
stick to
and
it,
sort of stand on our soapbox and scream about it on social media and whatever we may do, still allowing us to then 5 days later change our mind. But why not in that moment, rather than screaming from the whatever with our idea, be like, this is my idea, but I'm like interested and open to be proven wrong about it, or like, this is how I'm currently feeling. And I think a lot of it, right, comes down to language, which is what was so interesting about writing the book, how our language can genuinely deprogram these kind of fixed ideas where like, which lane are you in, decide. And I think too, with a lot of reading that I've done around sort of like other books that maybe state different kind of, sustainable type books, is that they're quite like, I really kind of shy away and don't like language that is about like, shaming and making people be like, if you're not doing this already, like, how do you call yourself an environmentalist or whatever? And showing the nuance, to a big part of the book is there's no right or wrong way. There's no good or bad thing. Like, that literally doesn't exist. And the nuance within every decision you make, all we can do is be more informed, have more information, know more, so that we can make our own better informed decisions that work for us. But like, someone else may have all the same information but choose to make a different decision based on their needs or realities. So I think that was a big thing for me too. Like, as I was writing it, like deprogramming this kind of, I've got to please everyone and get it right for everyone, this book, it made me just realize, like, I've chosen to write this book from my perspective, and that's what's going to make it interesting, as much as it's also going to make it have flaws, because I have flaws. So it was just like a very interesting letting go, I guess, in that moment. I had like a post-it note of a saying written on my computer, which is still there, which is, there's no wrong way to do the right thing. And that was like a thing that I lent on, just this idea that, like, if your intention is good, then it doesn't matter how you get to it, like, so that was kind of an interesting. Yeah, it was
that's so good. There's no wrong way to do the right thing. I love that. Thank you. Okay, bit of a pivot. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to ask you, what is your relationship to water like these days? Because I know that as an artist, water has been an incredibly powerful and present muse for you as an environmental advocate as well. How would you describe your relationship to water right now, all bodies of water?
Yeah, I feel that, to me, the space of water, particularly kind of, coastlines, have always been a huge inspiration to me. And I feel most creative around them, and I feel most hopeful around them. I feel like there's nothing more I love to gaze on than a horizon of the ocean. And I think it was interesting too, while kind of writing, and maybe off the back of that, how much busier I have been in my time, and therefore have definitely spent probably less time surfing and recreationally enjoying the ocean. So that was kind of always an interesting thing for me. Like, how do I cultivate that or keep that relationship going without physically being in it as much? And coming out of the winter, like, definitely being around it less, So yeah, how I kind of draw on those things too when we can't physically connect with them. And I think that's also, a really interesting part of writing the book when I was kind of thinking about different people's elemental connections, whether that's like what they're interested in, like, you know, what they love, or also just the reality of how far away they are from a coastline, from a mountain, from a forest. So it made me like really re-question, like, how can I take those feelings like into a home environment, whether that's like washing the dishes, running a shower, in the bath, you know, all those different things, just water in its like how like water obviously holds kind of memory, and for myself and in itself. So I feel like my relationship with water in this moment feels like it's like slowly coming back to me, because I feel like it was a bit tangibly lost as I was less in it, literally. So yeah, I don't know. I went surfing on the weekend. I mean, big thing of a practice that really like Andrew and I love together is surfing. And we went on the weekend, and it was like, this is our first time as a married couple surfing. It was really cute.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So that was nice to like do that. And as things get a bit warmer and the summer kind of approaches, like I'm excited to just like explore some other waters. Like I've been so based here, you know, by the Pacific Ocean. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's always like interesting. Like I could get frustrated for sure when I just had less time to go to the ocean, or maybe I honestly, not even less time, but like I just didn't have the energy to take myself there. You know, even the things we know we love, sometimes we don't do for ourselves. And that's like, okay. And so it's been interesting to be like, feel in a projector way, seeing it as it like comes back to me. And like, I'm like excited for it to come back to me, whether that's like, you know, I'm traveling to like, I plan to go in the summer to like Wales and Cornwall in England, and like the difference of the waters there, or like we're planning to go to like Greece and feel that like Mediterranean water. Like I'm excited for like some different bodies of water that I'll get to experience this year.
The textures and the appreciation, like I love how you touched upon bringing more awareness to the bodies of water that most of us can experience in our day-to-day, whether it's the water that we're drinking or how we're showering or bathing or washing our dishes, just to bring that love into that. Because you're right, it's all water. It's all this interconnected water. That really kind of activated some light bulbs in my brain when you were saying that. So thank you. Okay. I also had a question that I wanted to mention. I'm like, do I want
What's gonna be?
Well, actually, that might be a little naughty, actually. But the question that I also wanted to ask you, we'll save that one for later. Do you have any go gently or Bonnie sort of non-negotiables, which I understand is a little bit contradictory because it's all about being gentle, but are there like 3 things, whether they're food or lifestyle decisions, that are an absolute yes or no for you as far as how to live conscientiously?
Yeah, I mean, I guess non-negotiables happen too because they get so part of your routine. So it's like they're not even, it's just like, is a non-negotiable brushing your teeth, or is that just because you always brush your teeth kind of thing? Yeah. So things work their way into our lives and they stick. Whether that for me is, you know, never throwing any organic waste in the landfill trash, like it's going to get composted. That's just part of my reality now. It's like brushing my teeth. Or whether that could be, you know, choosing not to buy something, or like choosing not to, I don't know, I think things can ebb and flow. Yeah, I mean, there could be some practices that you have at home that just like, okay, that's what you've chosen to consume now. So like, why would you change that? But I think non-negotiables that aren't just based on like consumer habits too, which I think is important to like differentiate the things that are just choices of what you buy and choices of like how you live. And I think for me, a non-negotiable thing, even though it's going to be slightly contradictory, is to not let myself be kind of like disappointed or upset in myself if I did break something that I quite like to do. For instance, like I could be traveling and I holding onto a banana skin and I like literally cannot find somewhere to compost it. Like even though that could be my day-to-day practice. So the non-negotiable of like allowing myself to like go against something that could be quite ingrained in me, because then what does that act of not being able to do something teaches me a lot about where I could be traveling. Like, okay, that highlights a system problem where I'm where I am, right? That they don't have access to compost. So I think with all these things, like the minute you hit a wall or like difficulty, that always is like a ping for like there's a system fault right there.
Right. Otherwise, so it's like, oh, this is frustrating, and this is an opportunity for me to potentially spread some awareness. Yeah.
So I don't know if that doesn't really answer your question, but non-negotiable.
It does.
Yeah, I think.
And just what about personal like well-being? You know, for your own sanity or health. Is there anything that just like works or doesn't?
I don't know. You know, I used to have like that. I have interestingly, like from, I guess it really like started to affect the pandemic and lockdown and everything really affected my meditation practice to the point where it's like, I don't have one really at this moment. And that was like so interesting within itself to be like, okay, like that's okay. Like now I feel like interested to get back into it, but from a different angle, maybe a different practice or be a bit more guided through it. I just physically found it just like, it just wasn't right. And that was kind of really interesting because at first I was like really angry and frustrated, like, why am I not doing this? And, you know, and then it just became, well, this is kind of counterproductive. So like, let go of you not doing something. So that's been interesting. And, you know, instead, like I began to, as I was saying, like walk a lot. Like that was my meditation, just walking. So just allowing, that was a walking practice. I mean, I guess from having a dog, like I have to walk, but it was interesting, like how much more I was walking, or like really wanting to get lost more on walks, like, or being like having practices on that walk, whether it was kind of like leaving my phone at home or trying to identify things on my walk in the like plant kingdom that I didn't know about. And then I don't know, other ones, I mean, you know, moving, stretching, standing up from a lot of desk work.
So important.
And for me, as I say, like I find a lot of joy in cooking. So, you know, just like making something that wasn't even like a meal and it's just like a treat of cooking or baking something, like I lose myself in that. And so that is like really helpful for me when if I'm really overly thinking things, which I can do, like just doing something that like just requires like my hands is a great practice for me.
What are you loving to eat or just craving these days?
Well, what are they craving? Well, Andrew loves lentils and beans, so we made a dal last night. That felt pretty good, like rice and lentils. And then, I mean, honestly, I'm a simple, you know, person. I love like simple pleasures of honestly eating toast every morning for breakfast. And things have started to like grow and stuff. So I don't know, we've got like arugula coming through and radishes and things like that. So it's nice to like feel like summer is coming. And I feel like loads of like right now, obviously we've just been through like a massive citrus season and fruit. So that's been like a lot of, we have a passion fruit vine. So I think I became a passion fruit last year. So many passion fruits. I don't know. I feel like it's been quite like interchangeable, which has been kind of nice. Like I haven't been too stuck on certain things. But And it's so
minus the toast. I'm going to interject here. I'm like, the toast. The toast has not disappeared.
The toast has never changed. Sourdough bread is there to stay. But yeah, felt like just loads of cooked things. I haven't been into many raw things. Everything's been like warm.
Yeah, the seasonal.
Yeah.
The seasonal piece. Okay. Along with this book and with the website, can you kind of walk us through what's happening on the Go Gently site, what those offerings are, if we should watch out for anything new or anything that's currently on there, what's happening on it's gogently.earth. Yes?
Yes, gogently.earth. So yeah, I have the website that was really, I came to create that because I was interested in potentially like, inviting other writers into this dialogue and this kind of perspective I was interested in. So again, I was also really interested in how we can create a space for longer form writing in the same way the podcasts are that, rather than these kind of quick infographic, moments of quick digestion of information. So the website is really a kind of celebration of long form writing from both myself and guest writers. And then my YouTube channel, I guess I was really honestly drawn to make that because I'd been missing making videos. I'd been so writing in this medium of writing. I really wanted to sort of return to the medium of video. And it'd been a long time since I'd been like in front of the camera. I haven't really acted for quite a long time now. So it was kind of fun to like come back in front of the camera and make them feel very fun and intimate. And the videos are essentially walking through a lot of the practices and themes that are in the book and like additional ones to that. And I've really enjoyed them. And it's been just so fun to like read everyone's comments in the YouTube, people trying recipes and like loving kind of ideas. So that's been a really fun, like beginning community. I've learned so much from watching YouTube myself. So it's been fun to be part of that kind of resource. And a thing I'm also sharing, which I think from the date of this podcast will be available. So like obviously a big thing for an author and their book is sort of pre-orders, and two incentives I've created around the pre-order of the book is one, you get like a preview ebook of the book that kind of gives you about 20 literal pages from the book as a preview. And then another thing I've launched is I've always like been very fond of the term earthling. So my brother and I like designed this like hat, and it's essentially like an embroidered baseball cap that's an earthling. Like,
I love it. It's
logo.
So dope.
Yeah. So that will be at this moment probably available when this comes out. So that again is another kind of incentive.
And that's on gogently.earth on the site.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. We'll link that.
Yeah. So it's been, fun. And obviously I'm coming up to the actual publication time. So I'm going to be doing a couple of different like in-person talks and virtual things and different sort of like interviews around it, which I'll obviously share on Go Gently's Instagram, which is also just gogently.earth.
Awesome. So, and everyone as well, definitely spend some time on Bonnie's site and on her YouTube channel, which I love to see your filmmaking skills happening in the most digestible and practical way. That one closet video that you made, Bonnie, was so inspiring.
Oh, good.
I literally followed along. I watched it a second time and I followed along with you and organized and eliminated my closet a bunch. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, I'm very happy to hear that you did that. I feel like, I've just loved, as I say, returning to the medium of film and how like interactive and intimate it can be as well. Obviously that's like my background is film and storytelling through that medium. And as I kind of progress through this year and after the book comes out, not only will I obviously keep up these platforms through YouTube and the website, but it's been kind of really exciting now as I look to like what's next. And for me, it has been to slowly return to kind of filmmaking in terms of like fictional filmmaking. So that's fun. There was a project that kind of went on total pause since pre-COVID. So it's been fun to return to that. And, these films and ideas that I've been working on are very much still around all these topics, but like, how can one use fictional storytelling and story as a like huge open platform to just kind of express the wildest ideas, to expand our kind of stubborn ideas we can often have. But I feel like you go into a movie and you just open yourself wide open to be like changed and inspired, I feel. So I think it's a very powerful 2 hours or whatever to sort of like to expand and change people's perspectives.
Absolutely. Film is such a powerful medium. And how full circle for you also, with the book, with the platform, the education, you're saving the world one DIY toothpaste recipe or at least saving the world from tons of plastic toothpaste tubes. And now you're coming back to your craft. And I'm very excited to hear this, Bonnie. Can you share with us anything of what you're working on, or is it still top secret?
Well, yeah, I mean, basically I've been working with 2 other writers, and we were writing a feature film that essentially was looking at kind of, the theme was sort of looking at sort of the toxic runoff and pollution that can come off kind of like industrial facilities and how that can affect like, a town or city, which we've seen play out a lot in kind of more like dramas, like Dark Water, looking at like, different things like that. But this story is quite different because it actually not only plays on those very real realities for people who live by toxic kind of facilities, but it also then plays into the funness of monsters. So essentially it's a monster movie about like how at the end of the day, we're the monsters by kind of creating this stuff. So how we kind of be like haunted by our own kind of actions.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we're returning to that script now. And then we also made a short film last year that we just finished that was basically similar topics, but like just based in like a house about this one couple at night. I'll send it to you. It's pretty fun. It's called Consumed, and it's essentially like this couple get like visited by this sort of monster that's sort of born out of, waste, and it kind of comes to them through their pipes in their house. And so yeah, all bringing these fun themes into genre, which is always fun because you get to play into the kind of melodrama of it all.
I love it. So wait, is Consumed available for people to watch, or?
No, it isn't. We kind of made it as a sort of stepping stone to help the feature film. So we probably will obviously release it at some point, but we haven't really like decided where and how to, because I think it's so hard. You make projects, especially short films, and how and what you do with that is like a challenging thing. And again, like going into these kind of program ways of we only think something's like been made if we share it, or like if it's real, if it's successful, or people watch it, or so. I learned so much just from making it. It's then like where does it need to go now to like finish this story?
And not feeling like you have to rush into committing it to a specific home. I love that you're giving yourself that space, and I can't wait for this feature film. I had got a big giant grin on my face when you were describing it. I was like, ooh, because you are such a talented filmmaker and storyteller on all levels, all mediums, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Girl, you don't stop. Are you going on a honeymoon? Okay, most importantly, when and are you doing a honeymoon, and are you taking any time off? Because this is a lot.
Me time off? Yeah, we are. We're going to go in June once the book and everything is sort of done. So it's going to be a double honeymoon, wedding and book honeymoon.
Oh yes.
And then yes, I will. I'm planning like for my summer to be pretty like quiet, but we'll see how well I stick to that.
Beautiful. Well, it will be so well deserved. Okay, I have one more question for you, which I'm really curious because I remember what your response was before. And now that you're a married woman and an author, Bonnie, and an online educational platform owner, and, you know, a businesswoman. I mean, damn, girl, you're really coming into your power. Now that you have all these beautiful things under your belt, what would be your last meal on earth? Really, in the sense of a celebration of being in the body, of enjoying this human experience, and a celebration of all the senses.
Oh, I think because it was so special, and you can enjoy this too because you had the meal. Honestly, like I would just be back at if I could be back at the table at our wedding, eating that same meal, which was basically this kind of Palestinian like rice and lentil dish with these like char grilled vegetables, and it's like amazing salad. Everything was so fresh, and this like long kind of amazing like Persian bread and dips, and it was just so everyone sat, as you were there, but describing it to people, like everyone sat on one long table. And our intention behind that was we just like hate sort of separating energy or like feeling like you're on this table that's, you know, table, whatever, in the corner. And so we wanted to have this literal feeling of like everyone breaking bread at the same table. And so we were like so pleased that we're able to pull that off. So yeah, I feel like my last meal, as it's so raw in my mind right now, would be our wedding day dinner. And if it could be an exact table with all the exact people, that would be good too. Because it just felt like the energy at the table, just being sat at it, was like wild. Like it just shows you how much like spatially like things matter, and how much like, I don't know, I've always been someone who like my spatial kind of awareness and design is always like very like alive.
Yeah. I mean, that would be my last meal on earth too, Bonnie. I want to be back at that table. Is just incredible. And the candlelight and the flowers and then the food. I mean, I ate so much.
Good. I have leftovers for days.
I love it. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Just exquisite. And then all the stories and your family and Andrew's family. It was very the Brits and the Italian.
It was cute.
Amazing. Beautiful. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to drop in with us today. And for everyone tuning in, Bonnie, where are all the best places for people to connect with you, to buy the book? Like, where do you recommend people pick up the book and get all the updates on your life and your art and work?
So I think with the book, obviously, where you can support your local independent bookstore, whether that's, sometimes there are like platforms that kind of connect you to that. I think like there, I have the links to those on my website. I think it's called like Indie Books or something like that connects you, or bookstore.com. Anyway, if you go to my website, gogently.earth, it will have different retailer links, so you can find the one that you like to buy things from. And the Instagram is also the same, which is where we share like all the links to all the articles we're putting on the website. And I'll also be sharing all of the in-person and virtual events on there, gogently.earth. And if you're interested in me, my Instagram is Wright. And it's pretty much a Go Gently platform too, because that's all I talk about. So yeah, I hope you find me there and like connect by chatting in the comments. And I feel like, can't wait for people to read the book and try things and share them with me too.
Thank you. And then Bonnie, okay, really, truly last question now, another girly one. Can you tell us about your and Andrew's rings? Your wings, literally your wings into the married life.
We have grown wings.
It's beautiful. Yes, your wings and also your rings, because I'll let you share.
My parents, Gary and Sheila, have a brand called Wright that they've had for like 40 plus years. They're jewelry designers, and our rings are made in fair trade, rose gold, different kind of designs, but both rose gold. And then I have 2 rings, one that's like a wedding band and one that has a stone in it, and it's an aquamarine. Obviously I love aqua and water and everything, but this aquamarine is actually kind of special because I think it has a higher iron content, so it's a lot grayer. So it doesn't look like a normal aquamarine that looks quite like pale blue. It's actually quite gray. And I never really my parents have like very deep and trusted relationships with all the different people that they work with in England, whether that's like the stone setter or the gem dealer or the whatever it may be. So I was quite open to what I want. I wasn't like, I want an aquamarine. I was like, I just want to go and see some stones and be like called to one. And my main thing I've always been interested in with color and any of my taste. I always like love the things that are like not really one thing and they look different in different lights, or they're like a kind of muddy color between 2 colors. So that's why I kind of was drawn to this stone, because it's kind of like a gray blue. So yeah, they're made that by Wright & and I'm looking at it right now as I describe it you.
So sweet, so special. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Everything that they make is so beautiful. And they made your hair thing too, right?
That was like a vintage. They like collect loads of vintage pieces, and the like hair clip I had is like an old vintage like silver headpiece they had. So yeah, I didn't really and the shoes I wore were shoes I've had for like 5 years. So there was nothing much new.
And you looked like a fairy queen or like elf queen, just goddess. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Any final words for our listeners?
Just go gently with your day and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Sound Food. As Bonnie mentioned, you can find her at This Is Be Right on Instagram and Twitter, at official Bonnie Wright on Facebook, and then of course spend some time on her website, gogently.earth. You can pick up a copy of the book there, support your local bookstores, get it on audiobooks, pick up one of her awesome Earthling caps on her site. I can't wait to get mine. And if you want to also pick up one of those awesome upcycled cutting boards, the reboards, go to materialkitchen.com and use the code Citrine for 20% off everything. Amazing kitchenware line. And while you're at it, spend some time outdoors in nature, in the sunlight, in the elements. Give thanks. Take a moment to express your gratitude. Maybe go barefoot or place your hands on the earth and thank our beautiful Mother Earth for everything that she does, everything that she holds for us, all the love and support she continually pours out to this planet. Thank you, Mother Earth, so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this conversation. Thank you, Bonnie, for your time and energy. We hope that everyone has the most beautiful and inspired rest of this moment. Thank you for being here and tuning in to this episode of Soundfood. It is an honor to share this space with you. Have a beautiful week.